Welcome, everyone. Glad to have you at the weekly Dharma gathering. My name's Kim Schlesinger, and tonight's session is called I Like the Sound of Your Voice, Choosing a Teacher or Teachers for Longer Term Practice and Study, led by David Perrin. It will include a guided meditation, a Dharma talk, and a discussion. Tonight's session is going to be recorded, so if you prefer not to be seen, please turn off your camera. And please note that you'll also be recorded when you're asking a question. If you have a question during the guided instruction or the talk, you can enter it into the chat box at any time, and we'll be able to address it during the discussion period. So a little bit about tonight's teacher. David Perrin is a meditation mentor and friend to students, trainees, and fellow instructors. Collaborator, syncretist, facilitator of circle in its myriad forms, David articulates the multiplicity of meaning encompassed by a modern practice of mindfulness. As creative arts therapist, social venture business co-owner, philanthropist, partner, and father, David is passionate about infusing all locations with the mindfulness 3.0 of our time. Director of Mindful Teacher Training, original head teacher of Mindful Greenwich Village, and co-founder of Mindful Ed school-based program, David co-created the Mindful Certificate and Training Program with Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams. Mindfulness that is beyond binary, celebrating multiplicity and intersectionality, imbued with justice and anti-oppression, is the mindfulness for us all. Thanks for being here tonight, David. Please teach us.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you so much. Thanks for hosting. It's really so helpful and valuable to have folks like yourself hosting and holding the space for us. So I really appreciate you. And just want to start by appreciating you all, Rob and Anita and Shreya and Sheena and Jeffrey, for being here to practice with us tonight. As I was mentioning earlier to a few of you, this is a really, really ideally kind of a flow situation. So we'll do some practice now that I'll lead us in, and then I have some things to share, but we'll also give you prompts to think about and really invite you to interject and ask questions and make comments and to bring your voice into the space and your particular wisdom and life experience, because that's all relevant, particularly for this topic for tonight. So as Kim mentioned, you can, particularly for this practice period, choose to be in whatever position or posture that you want to be in. You can have your video on or off. You can shift in your seat so that you're not looking right at the screen. You really just need to hear the sound of my voice as the guide, but you don't need to see anything on the screen. So you can have eyes downcast but open, or you can have eyes closed. And it really is totally fine if you're in a space where you're feeling like tonight might be really nice to lie down. That is more than welcome. Also to stand up. If you're feeling super sleepy and you know that you would just probably pass out if you lay down, you can also do a standing posture and try that. And you can do standing and then move to sitting. You don't have to stay in one position the whole time as well. So there are a lot of options, and it is what works for your body and your energy level and your own practice tonight. So going to invite you to turn the attention inward. And so what happens in this moment when it's a guided meditation so often is this is actually a co-led experience. You and I are working together. So I'm offering prompts and indicators of where to go and maybe how to look and be curious in this practice. And what we each naturally do is sort of move in the direction that works for us. So sometimes, my voice might fall away and you might just be really in your own practice. Sometimes you might be staying with what I'm saying. Either way is good. Noticing a few good breaths coming into the body and then leaving the body. Hmm. Each of you is muted. So, actually, one of the benefits of practicing online this way is that you can make any sounds you want. Sometimes in a group environment in person, it feels a little awkward to make sounds, but ah, sighing, any kind of gentle body stretches that might feel good to just register what's here at this point in the day for you. Those sighs actually give us little ideas of how we're doing, which as we begin any practice can be this transition, just acknowledging what's here without jumping into a concentration technique or some other specific technique. And what's here? Noticing that on the level of body. So it could be energy level. It could be any achiness or tension or soreness or tiredness in the body. Acknowledging, I see you, I notice you. We're invited to witness ourselves, the kind of loving non-judgment. So imbued with a warmth and care, but easing off the tendency to judge or question ourselves or figure out why is that going on. Maybe moving to the state of our mental life, just noticing the quality of our mind. What do you notice about, you ask how you're doing in your mind? Is it busy? Is it dull? Is it relaxed? Is it anticipatory? Allow the breath to witness that. witnessing not only the state of body or the mind, but also the changes and the space around those things. Breath is relaxed and easy, and there are these movements of the mind, changes in body sensation, using breath to witness that. And so, noticing when we're caught up in thought is very simply just a temporary forgetting to be that witness. So, come back to the witnessing, to the noticing, with that care and kindness. Maybe a few slightly deeper breaths. Mm. And I'm going to invite us into a shift for this last part of the meditation. And we're going to actually do a little bit of a visualization. So imagining that that awareness of the body and the breathing kind of goes to the back burner, doesn't disappear, it's still there. But we'll invite you to just imagine a kind of blank canvas or blank slate in front of the body. It might be helpful to close the eyes for this visualization. And just breathing into that neutralness a couple times. It's kind of open, easeful. And I will invite you to paint the image on this blank canvas, this neutral space of a person, and specifically a person in your life who has been someone who has really seen you. So we were just witnessing ourselves and seeing ourselves. Who is someone who, with that caring and that kindness and gentleness and trust and benevolence and goodness, person could be a caretaker, grandparent, teacher, mentor, any of the above. If no one comes to mind, you can just rest on the breath and allow space. If many people come to mind, just go ahead and choose one person. And if you have that person, just paint the picture of them. What do they look like? Living, breathing version of them, standing or sitting in front of you. You might notice their posture. You might notice what they're wearing. You might notice the expression on their face. Feeling their presence, their aura, maybe imagining the gaze on you. You might even be able to hear the sound of their voice in a way as they say your name. Again, if someone hasn't arisen, that's totally fine. Just staying with the breathing. Witness yourself, taking yourself. If you do have that person there in front of you in your mind's eye, you might imagine extending love towards them. So, what does it mean for you to offer them care and kindness and love the way they have for you? How does that feel to send that to them? And feeling the breath, nice and easy. And the mind wanders, just coming back to this visualization just for a little bit longer. So if you're there with them, basking in their presence, sending them love and receiving theirs. And then finding the moment in these upcoming breaths to just bid adieu for now. So not saying goodbye forever, but just saying thank you. And then that gives them permission to dissolve or fade into white or black so that you come back to that neutral place, that neutral canvas. If it's helpful to open the eyes slightly, to just come back into the room you're in, you can do that, or you can keep the eyes closed and really bringing the breath back into the forefront of your awareness. Again, some slightly deeper breaths. And as we begin to transition from this formal practice and the eyes open if they're still closed, staying connected to your awareness of how you're doing, kind of checking in just as we did at the beginning, here at the closing. What are you noticing? Whatever point you want to bring a little bit of gentle movement or gentle stretches to the body. With that acknowledgement of the goodness engendered by the practice. And as with everything we do tonight and talk about and discuss and share, we have the wish and aspiration that it be helpful not only to us, but that extends through us and beyond us and reaches others. So right off the bat, I'm going to pose a question to you, which you can share in the chat if you would, and or if anyone is up for sharing out verbally, it's always really nice to hear a few voices. What was your experience of invoking um, this person that you were visualizing? Like what did you notice as you were doing that? Maybe how it felt, a detail, something that you, as you reflect now, like, oh, that was interesting. That thing. Um, what did you notice?
I can share.
Great.
Um, so the person that I was connecting with, she's not in this realm anymore. And she was my spiritual friend, yoga teacher. And it was, it was just like I met her yesterday and, it was that so ordinary and so beautiful, so familiar. And it's something that it just brought so much energy. I'm just very tired right now, and I was almost falling asleep, but just that is like it's like spring in my heart. It's and it's so I was also reflecting. So I'm from Italy, and I moved here now 21 years ago. What I was reflecting is that um, to not like, undermining any relationship that I had in Canada, but I have to say that from the heart, the relationship that I had with her, because she's come from same country, I never had with anybody here. I just feel that there is something at the heart level that is really connected with the culture that it's, yeah, it's just hard to reproduce here. I didn't meet anybody that had that same, there was the same connection about really, um, like you were saying, that a person that can really see you, and that you can really feel. I really felt that there was this mutual, we can just open up, say whatever we want, share whatever we want, and that's fine. There is a field of acceptance and love all the time. So
Yeah.
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 So,
Beautiful. Thank you. I mean, yeah, that's such a wonderful description of that kind of connection, and just the way you're talking about also the way that it rouses energy and opens the heart and connects us in some sense to our larger self, like like you, that field of awareness and acceptance, um, is is definitely some of the hallmark qualities of having that relationship. Yeah,
mhm.
wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Sriya. It's I want you to sort of say, I'm not ready to, if very much so, but I also want to just invite you to share at all, whether through writing or through your voice, anything of any quality or aspect of what you wrote, that was like resonant for you, and you can also say, yeah, not ready.
Yeah, I appreciate the invitation to pass.
Yeah.
What can I say? Um, I think I'm going through some stuff right now, and pausing and thinking about that person, I think brought up some just like primary feelings of um, probably like the shifts in our relationship, or the kind of like feelings of inevitable change or loss in that um, connection, just because of the temporariness of life. And
Yeah.
I think that that's just very like alive in my being right now. So I think it was very alive in that visualization. So that's what was coming up for me.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for your bravery and your honesty in sharing that, and sharing what particularly is alive for you. And yeah, so just to sort of use this as a way to get into maybe talking a little bit about this topic of um, finding a teacher, and I'm using that term quite broadly, right? So one thing that I want to just clarify from the beginning is that when we're talking about in the terms of like meditation or spiritual practice, I want to share with you three different types of teacher-student relationship, because it may be helpful with this topic particularly to distinguish a little bit at the outset the notion of the instructor, the spiritual guide, also sometimes called the spiritual friend, and what is often referred to as the guru or teacher sometimes with a capital T. The instructor is someone who has been, given permission or authorized or certified or whatever it is to give a meditation, to deliver a meditation, to lead a meditation. And so when we think about the universe of mindfulness or meditation, really the vast majority of people who are presenting meditation are instructors, because they give guidance, but that's kind of where it stops and where it should stop. The second designation of spiritual friend or guide, also you will maybe sometimes hear the word Kalyana Mitra, which is just the Sanskrit term for spiritual friend. That person has been, again, trained and has experience, hopefully, in working in a back and forth relationship, either one-on-one or with a group of people. So for instance, in my experience, that I started as an instructor, I was within the Shambhala tradition, was given the authorization to lead meditation, and then became a guide or spiritual friend, and began working and teaching and sharing in this exchange, right? Like what we're doing now. So, whether we were one-on-one or in a group, a small group like this, and, just the way I'm asking questions of you all it has to do with my training, which not only is in meditation, but as Kim said, as a therapist, training for years as a therapist and understanding the psycho-spiritual realm of things. As an artist, I also bring my experience as an artist, as a theater person, as a writer. I bring my experience as a parent, as a son, right? I bring all of my life experience, but I do have specific training to be able to be a spiritual friend. Guru, the third designation, the capital T teacher, what that word means is someone who connects us with like the essence, the pith, the truth of the way things are. They are a bridge, guru, like bridge to that part of ourselves. It is the case that sometimes people have personal relationships with guru, and so there's a personal intimacy there. It is often the case where there is not a personal relationship, and they are in a teacher-student relationship where that person is somewhat removed from them, meaning that person doesn't know, my teacher doesn't know me personally. My own experience, my guru, my teacher, the Sakyang Mipham Rinpoche of Shambhala, was someone who I did know personally, but we didn't discuss like my personal journey, my personal path. The details of my meditation experience wasn't part of the kind of contract of our experience. He taught, I received, we related to each other on other things, right? Like how to run a Shambhala center, or kind of more of the businessy administrative things. And so we had a personal relationship there. There was a little bit of socializing, but he didn't, it was never spoken that he was going to get to know me personally and sort of invest in my path. And I wasn't so clear when I started out as a meditator. I was not clear with those designations. No one explained this stuff to me. I just kind of kept walking along the path, and different people, I would encounter different people at different times. Some of them were instructors. Some of them were spiritual friends, or what we called in Shambhala meditation instructors, where I did have a one-on-one relationship with them. and in the Sakyong's case was the teacher. And also I interfaced with other capital T teachers or gurus who I received teachings from, but didn't necessarily enter into this kind of bond with the way that I did with the Sakyong. So that is, I think it's important to understand that, particularly in this now time of accessibility in a certain way, right? Like what the virtual connectivity has done has made seemingly things quite accessible, and we can, I mean, we're here together sharing this virtual space from all, you know, all different physical geographic locations. So it's important to kind of understand, well, like who are we relating to? I'm going to pause there and see, are there any questions about that, or like some aspect of that you're wondering? And feel free to ask me about my own personal experience, or like more generally or generically.
Yeah, hi. Can you kind of speak to, you're clearly speaking from your tradition, right? Which is a Buddhist, as a Vajrayana tradition. But can you also speak to, you know, this relationship in relation to other traditions? Because there's been a history, as you're aware, in your tradition of narcissism and abuse as a result. And it was, I don't come here to cast aspersions or look for accountability, but I do question the validity of the guru. You know, it's been something that has, in my opinion, not been successful when it's been adapted to the Western mind or the Western practice. It's been abused repeatedly.
Yeah.
So I don't want to concentrate on the negativity there, but you know, where is the line? My question is, where is the line between being a spiritual tourist and the necessity in the traditional or in the lineage sense of having a guru relationship?
Yeah. So Jeffrey, it's a great question, and it sort of leads to the heart of what I wanted, some of what I wanted to talk about and share. And hopefully it will come from a real personal experience, because as you're saying, I am talking about like the Tibetan Vajrayana version of the guru. There are other Indo-Tibetan, not necessarily Buddhist traditions, where guru figures also prominently. And if we extend that out, right, many of us, I have experience growing up in the Reform Jewish tradition where there was one rabbi. Many of us have experiences being in the church where there were maybe one or a few, but you know, central figures. But there's certainly hierarchy. So there's, anytime we're getting into the institutional nature of being within an organized system that is institutional, the hierarchy is inevitable, and the capacity for abusing the powers and privileges that are afforded within that hierarchy, as human beings, as you're alluding to, are absolutely, there's no one that's immune from it. There's no system, there's no human being, and I know that again from firsthand, you know, kind of not identifying so much with organized religion within my Reformed Jewish, feeling very spiritual, but not feeling like I necessarily wanted to be a part of the synagogue, right, of that tradition, and then kind of found myself drawn into another system based on teachings that really resonated with me. And as I moved along that system, where it all geared towards was, as one moved along, was in a relationship with this one individual. Now, the fine line that I think that I wanted to share tonight is that the way in which I was given the opportunity to relate to the complexity of a very intimate human relationship that was outside of my immediate family and that was outside of my romantic partnership. I'm going to use those two categories because often, the relationship to the guru or the capital T teacher is likened to the type of intimacy you would have with either a chosen partner or family, potentially family of origin. What Sriya and Anita shared at the beginning of this, in terms of the complexity of what that relationship is, what we're brought into when we give our full selves to another human being, and where, as I did, I encountered so many times my own resistance to what would be called in a Vajrayana context, like surrender, right? The surrender of ego, the surrender of fixed notions of what I'm supposed to get from the relationship. Over and over again, I was asked to sort of let go, disabuse, at the very least become aware and cognizant of where I was kind of bumping up against my own limitation to essentially, at the end of the day, to really, in that place that I was leading in the visualization, right? Like to offer love, that where was I holding back in offering that love? And how was I open or receptive to that love being extended to me? And there's no doubt in my mind that through the process of the commitment that I made, just that, it wasn't that the causes and conditions were there for me to have a relationship with the Sakyan, right? So I was drawn to the Shambhala teachings. I liked the people that I met when I went to the practice sessions and retreats and different programs and classes. There was enjoyment. I had fun. My mind was open. I felt clear. There were a lot of these positive things, of course, along with different neuroses that were manifested by myself and others of greed, aversion, ignorance, the rest of those things. We were not, there was in no way exempt from that. But as I made the commitment, sort of month to month and then year to year and program to program, and kept walking along and kept sort of saying, and someone said, okay, here's the next step to take. That my willingness to commit became a very clear mirror of my own mind and heart, and that is invaluable. There is something that through that process that I learned and gained that I don't know that I would have gained in any other context other than in again, a life partnership or kind of family of origin, where it changes. As Sriya said, the vagaries of life are such that sometimes we like that person, sometimes we don't. Sometimes the sound of their voice is so pleasing and so lovely, and sometimes it's grating. And so what draws us into relationship with either an instructor or a spiritual friend or a guru teacher, that is a mystery. And that has to do with, as Anita was kind of pointing to, we don't find it every day. We can aspire to it and we can kind of send out, these aspirations into the universe. But what the universe will send back to us and who we encounter, in some senses, we don't have a lot of control. How open we can be to that, we do have control. And so in my case, those conditions all just sort of arose for me to find myself in that situation, where I was asked to, alongside the growth and the joy and the realization and all of those things, I was also asked to face parts of myself that I might not otherwise have done. And that was in the context of not only my commitment to my teacher, but also my commitment to my community, to my Sangha, my commitment to being of service, my commitment to showing up, whether I wanted to or not. All of those things were part of that process. Now, and this is the last thing, I'll pause again in one moment. What I'll say is that, again, the power of that visualization that we did is that, and what I said at the beginning of the meditation is that it's always co-created. So even though there's a quality of surrendering to, our own resistance or to things that we don't want to face, we are always co-creating, and we need our discernment. And so if that situation and that teacher is inviting us to stay connected to that discernment, then that is a signpost that it's a help. Includes also a deeper and deeper understanding of our own psychology, our own makeup, our own hangups, our own neuroses, our own inner wounds, our own childhood stuff. Like that should be, in fact, a necessary ingredient of being in that relationship with that kind of intimacy, whether it's a romantic relationship or with a teacher. Because if we let go of that, or we ignore that discernment, and we ignore that staying in touch with like some of our own deepest stuff, it heightens very much the chance of playing out those things within the intimacy of the relationship. And I am of the notion and belief that that's part of what happened in the Shambhala situation. People played out patterns that they didn't understand within themselves, and then that resulted in harm because people either didn't attend to or really turned away from those things and tried to maintain and be in that kind of intimacy, and then the power dynamics went askew in certain cases, not all, in certain cases. So I hope that offers something towards what you were wondering about, and I would welcome yours or any other thoughts that folks have.
I have a question. So I cannot share your experience. I come from a Shambhala environment too, here in Edmonton, and I was director of the center. I followed the path. I never met the Sakyong. And I'm wondering, because you're talking about, if I understood well, you said that you didn't have a direct, intimate experience with the Sakyong. Is that correct?
Not in the way that, not in this plane of things, but as I opened my mind, see, part of that relationship is as I opened my mind and as he showed up, we met, our minds met, right? That field of awareness and love and that you talked about that grew, that you had the experience with the yoga teacher, right? Where you met, your minds and your hearts met in that space. That was my experience of intimacy with the Sakyong. Right?
But in real life, just you never really see him physically.
Right. Right. So it wasn't through the kind of quote unquote real life or real time experiences. And in fact, oddly enough, when we had real life interactions, it was like talking to an uncle or almost like a business associate, because he manifested differently in different contexts. But as a teacher, there was a way in which he opened the space for our minds and hearts to meet.
So I just want to like, because I was listening what you were saying, and I so my experience in Chambala is similar to yours in the sense that I was attracted from the community, and all the, you know, the teaching and the study, it really, like, you know, the idea of the Sangha has the heart that support us in our understanding, transformation, make everything seen, even, you know, the interaction and our neurosis in a different context that, like you said, is not your family, is not. So for me, that was so valuable. The Sangha was the valuable things. The teacher or the guru, to me, is actually has a symbolic, or has it in some way, the way it took shape in Shambhala. You're either real or not real. So the contact that was with the Sakya or not was actually bringing out something that interrupt that community Sangha support, in the sense that when there was this authority, this guru, real or not real, dynamics changed completely. So people were like, you see me, I'm more important, I'm less important. And then all that our Sangha support changed completely. So
Yes.
is this really what we need? Because I really believe that the Sangha, the heart, the support, and the human being is the spiritual transformation. In some way, that's what I experience.
Yes.
And they can tell me that tradition in Tibet is different. I'm just talking about my experience, and that's what I experience.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, and as you know, and you're sort of in traditional Buddhism, the three jewels, right, are the teacher, the Buddha, the teachings, and the Sangha, or the community, right? So that is kind of the model, and that got shaped in the Tibetan tradition really around this sort of guru figure. Now, I don't know that it's an inevitability that someone who holds that kind of authority, do they ultimately, right? Does that bring out people's, you know, neurotic patterns? Does that automatically always happen? Does that person always abuse that power? As I said before, I think it's I think it's a very possible for anyone. No one is above that. No human being is above that. Is there a way in which looking to someone or something as the conduit of the essence or the pith of what's true, wisdom and compassion, merging to show us our true nature, our basic goodness, our humanness, our Buddha nature, whatever you want to. I do believe that it is important for that to be present in some way, shape, or form. Does it need to be embodied by a human being? I'm not necessarily saying that it does, but there needs to be some aspect of that community, because if that community doesn't have that, almost like that guide star, or that conduit, that way of receiving the view, the highest view, there is also a similarly likely experience for what you're describing. If you're just relying on Sangha, confusion to reign. So it's equally possible when you take away the teacher, you take away the guru, for that to be the case. It would be nice to think that it was so simple to say, okay, do we really need the guru? You know, so much of my own development happened within the Sangha, and what I saw of myself and others, and how I served, and all of the realization that I had in Sangha. Absolutely, so much happens in that context. But I think it's too simple to say, you know, we don't need someone who's expressing, or something that's expressing that. Now, the one thing I'll say as we sort of, you know, get towards closing for tonight is, I have been hearing some teachers talking more recently about, you know, the idea of the earth being the guru. That to me is a more advanced practice because we have a lot of experience as human beings. Like, we came into this world attuning to another human or trying to attune to them. And so we really know what it's like as humans to humans. I'm not sure we can work towards the sophistication of human to natural world, to be, for the natural world to be a reflection of who we really are in both our brilliance and our confusion. I think it's possible. But it will, yeah, it may be the evolution of where this kind of whole teacher situation goes. Meanwhile, I also want to leave you all with this notion of like, that it may be possible to travel along the path with a Kalyana Mitra spiritual friend for some time. And, you know, it actually may be that if whether it's the earth as guru, or, you know, the more than human world as the ultimate teacher, what the spiritual friend under the best of circumstances can do is really get to know us personally and say, and ask us questions. What are you doing in your meditation practice? Where is your mind going? What are you thinking about? How is it affecting your life? Like, it is really important to process with another human being. They don't necessarily have to be your capital T teacher, but they need to be someone who's trustworthy, who you can enter into a relationship with, where there's enough intimacy where, you know, you're not surrendering everything to them, but they're seeing you. They're seeing you. We all need to be seen by other humans. And so I think if that kind of goes back to these three designations of receiving, you know, meditation instructions from an instructor, being seen by a spiritual friend, and then thirdly, the guru or the teacher, in whatever form that takes, being that direct link, that bridge to our highest selves.
Can you speak to briefly how best to approach someone? It's one of the people in your Sangha, Shante Smalls, I heard speak the first time I ever went to a Shambhala center, long before I knew anything about Shambhala. And yeah, it was just one of those moments. I've had other teachers, but they spoke, and I just, yeah, my heart opened, and of course, years later, the implosion, or whatever you want to call it, happened, and then I was no longer ever going to support Shambhala, blah blah blah, and went on my own, and was part of some other meditation centers, but really didn't have a guru, and never formally asked Shante. And then recently, through weekly Dharma gathering, yeah, Shante has been teaching and has reappeared in my practice. And yeah, what is the proper, I guess I should ask them myself, right?
Yeah,
But
I think,
yeah,
yeah.
but I'm still skeptical about that guru relationship, right? I appreciate your teaching. I appreciate Shantae's teaching. Like I said, I love the weekly Dharma gatherings, and the equality that's here, right? You're not sitting on a dais, with all kinds of pomp and incense burning and a flower offering and a big sign behind you promoting, some tradition. You're just here amongst equals. We're all educated. We're all, We all have some more similarities in our stories than differences, and that's very attractive to me.
Yeah, that's a great question. Rob, can I put you on the spot a little bit here? So I'm going to ask. So Rob and I have known each other for a number of years, and we've had Jeffrey, the spiritual friend relationship with. And Rob, I'm going to make you blush a little bit, but Rob really is the model for what you're asking, Jeffrey. And so I'll just say, from my point of view, and I want to hear yours, Rob, but from my point of view, Rob, really just kept showing up, listening to talks. I mean, we didn't get a chance to be in that many programs together because we weren't living in the same place. But had we been, I'm sure Rob would have been at a number of the programs that I was leading, whether they were weekends or week-longs or even just single evenings. Rob eventually supplicated me to work one-on-one and knew that I worked with students one-on-one and asked me what that would entail. But what I'm underscoring here is like he was demonstrating through his commitment of just showing up and asking questions and being really thoughtful about what he was receiving with a lot of just gratefulness, So he made an offering, is what I'm trying to say, is through your offerings, Rob, you drew me as a teacher into a relationship with you. I don't know if that's at all what your experience has been.
It's definitely been my experience too. And what you're saying, Jeffrey, with Shantae too, when you connect with a teacher, the essence of the teachings come through. So you want to share that with someone else. That makes it, for me, it makes it a little bit more real and applicable to life. So David definitely has shared that and offered back sort of that connection to how to apply the teachings to real life. And having that consistency, like you said, David, continuing to show up has left a sort of trail of progress or growth or whatever you want to call it. And that's really fun to share,
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think, it's especially important now where we might be crossing distances, physical distances, geographic distances, that the demonstration that, Jeffrey, you or any of us here, the demonstration of our willingness, our commitment, our openness, our own intelligence, which you bring forward, which is such a key part of this, but our willingness to, this is actually a great way to close, because the way I would put it is the willingness, when I talked about surrender earlier, and it could be construed as being surrendering to another person, like giving up our own personal autonomy. And it's actually not that. It's surrendering to our own bigger self, like the journey of our own basic goodness and our Buddha nature. And is that sometimes painful? And sometimes we have to put our heart on the line? And do we sometimes have to let go of, or really look at the resistances or the pain or whatever is there? Yes, it's not an easy process, but we're surrendering to, this mutual thing. And so that has to be demonstrated. That's a commitment. There's no way to do that by kind of like being here and then being in this class and then going over to another teacher and all the rest of that. And it's seductive, because we live in a day and age where you can study with 10 different teachers in 10 different weeks. And you can get a lot of great stuff, but you will never go on to like level 2, because we will be kind of always holding something back. We'll be holding back the like reserving the right to pick up our chips or pick up our toys and go somewhere else. And any teacher worth their salt, any teacher who you can trust will pick up on that immediately. And so you have to demonstrate otherwise. You have to show that your good heart is really in it, because what they have to offer to you and what they've been offering to others, if they have experience with this, is the fullness of their heart. They're going to give you everything they have. And so I honestly think that's why a lot of people don't go there, because they're not ready for someone to give them that much. So that's just a little, I don't know what it is, but it's just to say, how I feel being with you all tonight. I give you as much as I know to give, and it comes with full love and full respect for each one of your dignity and your path and your journey and your goodness and all of who you are. And I am I just have such faith in those things and in each one of you and in those aspects of you. And really I'm, such a cheerleader and such a fan of you going out and being your biggest, fullest, most realized selves. And so I hope that for each one of you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. It's a big question for a lot of us. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for tonight's online Dharma gathering. Please join us next week. The topic is touching our creativity, caring for ourselves, and the teacher is Paul Singleton III. Consider becoming a subscriber if you aren't already. We have a 7-day weekly Dharma gathering free trial that you can find on our website, and tell your friends. In addition, make sure to follow us on Instagram @Weekly Dharma and Facebook @Weekly Dharma Gathering. Again, thanks so much, everybody. Thanks, David. We'll see you all soon. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much, Kim. Really great to see you and be with you again.
Yeah, you too. I hope to see you soon.
Okay, take good care.
You too. Good night.